What's going on, everyone? I hope you were well. And it's a beautiful thing. No one likes watching the price of Bitcoin fall. No one likes the thought of potentially the Fed just continue tightening until something breaks. And no one likes seeing the markets under such turmoil. But having the ability to know whether or not you should be in the market, when and when you shouldn't, working through the short end as well. CTM 2.0 for those that are trading on the short side continues to perform, and as well as holding a nice open position about 15% into profit right now. But we need to talk about what's the best way to attack if someone wants to go ahead and do that. Long side's enough. Buy side is more than enough. That's where I'm at, and I'm currently on the sidelines just waiting. I don't know when this is going to bottom. Let's get into the charts a little bit. Listen, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Let's get into it. If you're looking at Bitcoin, as most people do, as that actually structurally the high was in April for many different reasons, whether traditional indicators, whether it was investor behavior, the euphoric nature of it. From on-chain to off-chain, everything except price points to the high being in April. And I say everything but price because price made a higher high in November. In distinguishing, once 53,000 broke, that what was going on. And by this point, 5 months later, it seems to be the general norm that this is what's accepted. We are in an area where we've seen price capitulate before. If you're lining it up from the highs and you consider the April high, what is a little bit different though is that degree of capitulation, because we're looking ever since that breakdown of 38,000, about 18%. That's not what it's looked like in the past when we had capitulation. I mean, you did have first this down move of a relatively similar nature, right? And then this big leg down, 40%, we'll call it, 38, 39%. Same thing happening in 2018. You had this big first initial 33% down move, and then a follow through taking it down another 40%. Right now, so far, the market is giving us so far about from the all-time high, less than 60%. Many people are looking for that 70% drawdown, and it could happen. We're going to talk about that. Obviously, as we could have another leg down, right? And that leg taking us, another 40% down towards that 22, 21, 20,000 area. And that would look the same as the capitulation we've seen in prior cycles. When we talk about things that, I don't think will ever happen, but keep me up. And I talk about something like Bitcoin, $10,000. You could jump down over to this linear chart over here, which offers a really good view. And we could just use our trend lines showing the market structure. And we could pull that off of the COVID low. And we could say, all right, well, there's a strong probability that Bitcoin won't trade any lower than 19,500. That would be like financial crisis lows. After putting in that mid-March around the Fed meeting, that low, the bounce, the rip up was sold massively hard and quickly. Since then, we've taken out that low. This opens up the door for further possible legs down. Not only on the Nasdaq, we're seeing that same behavior occur on the S&P 500. I think it's best to simply do what we do on Bitcoin and wait for the next buy signal. I'm not trying to call the bottom. You all know that because we did that work earlier in the week. We don't have to try to call it. We know when the first opportunity to take a buy entry is, and it's not happening anytime soon. We'll wait and we'll watch. That maybe we are into some capitulation. I don't think anyone thinks that we're experiencing shorter cycles. That would be the cycle peaking out over here in April. Right now, if you look at it to peak out in November at the all-time high, then the cycle from potential halving to cycle peak is roughly the same, right? In the same area. Again, most analysts believe that the peak was over here. View this as the same cycle, so long as we're holding this area. You all remember the golden ratio from the summer of 2021. And as long as that's holding, I view this as that we are mid-cycle. Now, if that does break below, if we break this area, we've really tried hard to put in the work in so that everyone's prepared, and we could see downside. We could see that area over here of 21,000. That would be more typical of volatility we've seen at the close of a bear market before we went ahead and started front running the halving. Now, if that happens, it's a lot more of the same, except for the volatility on the upside. That was missing. We didn't see that unless we break below the mid-cycle, the golden ratio. At that point, look out below. Look, we all know that we're in spot. We all know that we de-risked down much higher early December 4th, 53,140. And if we do break below, I do sometimes think about price returning to $10,000. I don't think it's going to, but I could see a high probability of us returning somewhere around the 200 week moving average on Bitcoin. I like our trend lines better. That I wanted to pull up the 200 day we were looking at yesterday, coming in a lot lower, and we know that this area over here is something to watch out for. If price is actually capitulating now, we are seeing diminishing volatility to the downside. We've already seen it to the upside. It would make sense. The way that I look at from where we are from price today, by the end of the year, by January 2023, we're looking, or the models suggest that we should be around $58,000. If that is happening, and why I say that, you could see over here the yellow line, and the prime trend line is over here at $58,000 on January the 1st, 2023. Price is generally above that line, not below it. There have been, and there are times like during March 2020 or in August, September 2015, where price was briefly below that. But aside from that, we have seen nothing more than a steady 107% increase year over year. And I still assume that's probably going to be the same. We run towards these areas where price starts drifting up. But even when it does, it's generally above, not below that yellow line, the mean forecast, and price currently below it. I'm looking for price to return by the end of the year. Now, that's assuming we don't break down. If we break down, take out the golden ratio, put in some lower lows, at that point, yes, very quickly, the center focus becomes what it's been, right? That in light of current Fed policy, until they actually do pivot, look, we're at their mercy. Waiting on the sidelines is a good feeling, watching and waiting for the buy signal, licking my chops, the cheap Bitcoin. And look, this is the mood within CTM and how it should be. It's by putting that work in, by staying ahead and managing our risk and having the ability to know when to be in, when to be out. That puts us into that position of strength. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Want to continue doing everything we can to further position ourselves. But this is the way I look at it. I don't look at it like this is a shorter cycle that we peaked out in April. I look at it most likely that price is just basically showing reduced volatility to the upside, to the downside, but not as far as returns. That thesis that I'm using here, which is the adoption of Bitcoin, that should have us right around $60,000 come January 2023. If that does happen, then that's a pretty strong confirmation that we are dialed in here and that we have the best means going forward to continue to be able to forecast where we believe price is going to be and to manage our risk around that. A breakdown over here, let me just put it this way. Hindsight analysis is very helpful. I waited for the break of 35,000. The 37,000, remember I pointed out two important levels, 37 and 35. 35 is like where it's confirmed. 37 was the better entry because it was the break of the bear flag, and it proved to be the correct entry. It's so far until we're out of the woods because things could break. From where we are, it's another 40% down in past cycles around this time, and that would bring us right around to that $21,000 Bitcoin if something like that were to occur. If that's the worst that happens, that's not so bad. That's pretty good. And from a technical standpoint, also good that it held above the previous all-time high, right, at 19,000. If price breaks below that, this area over here, best or the most accurate trend line I have to give what that reading is, comes at 19,500. That's right at the high of the previous cycle, all-time high. You could see that, and that would be okay. Structure. If we broke below that, at that point, then things are bad. things are bad, and that would be really tough. It would be devastating if we broke below the previous bull market breakout, which if we broke back to the previous bull market breakout of 10,000. At the same time, it's almost just as worrying to break below the previous bull market high, right around this trend line over here. This trend line coming in off, of course, off of the March low, and it just coincides. And that's similar to something that we spoke about this winter when I kept repeating that prices never traded below the peak of wave one. And if that were to happen, that would signal that something's very wrong. That coincided with our 53,000 de-risking level. And that's because, we did it off our trend line break over there. But it was that awareness, knowing if you break below that, something's wrong. It's similar to where we're at here. If we break below the previous cycle all-time high, well, that's really bad. That shouldn't be happening. And that just helps you visualize it in a clearer way. For me, that's my worst case scenario. And I attribute a very low probability that we would break below. And if we do, well, then, you know what? This is for sure in play of price returning towards $10,000. I give a higher probability that we are close to seeing that price bottom out. And most likely what we see is sometime by September, price trading above $32,000 from where it is today. And, that's my next marker. By the end of the summer, I want to see price at least 32,000 of above. If it is, that gives me a pretty strong indication that into the close of the year, by January 2023, my expectation is that we're trading at $58,000 or higher, and price is usually higher than that.